Kai had been traveling for weeks, carrying out a mission for the Galactic Alliance on a distant planet. A storm had forced him off course, and his ship was damaged beyond repair. Stranded in the middle of nowhere, he knew he had no choice but to survive and find a way to make contact with anyone who could help. As he trudged through the dense forest of the alien world, he noticed something strange. The air was filled with a quiet hum, almost like a soft vibration. He moved cautiously, his senses alert, until he stumbled upon a clearing. There, lying on the ground, was an injured figure, her wings spread out in a strange, almost unnatural way. At first he thought she was dead, but as he got closer, he saw the faint rise and fall of her chest. She was breathing. Kai's heart raced. The woman was unlike anyone he had ever seen before. Her skin shimmered with a strange, iridescent hue that seemed to shift with the light. Her face was delicate, almost ethereal, framed by long silver hair. But what caught his attention most was her wing, large, beautiful, and now broken beyond repair. It was a magnificent sight, a symbol of her power, but now it lay broken, torn, and useless. Instinctively, Kai knelt beside her. He had no idea who she was or what her people were, but he knew one thing. She needed help. He could fix machines, repair ships, and design technology, but this was different. He wasn't sure how he would fix her wing, but he knew he had to try. With steady hands, Kai checked for signs of life. Her pulse was faint, but steady. She had been hurt badly, but there was a chance. The wing was not like anything he had ever seen. It seemed almost organic, with veins and delicate, glistening fibers running through it. Kai studied it for a moment, then turned his attention back to the woman. Her eyes flickered open, revealing a pair of deep violet irises that seemed to pierce through the very air around them. She blinked, disoriented at first, but then her gaze fixed on him. "Who are you?" Her voice was soft, but carried an undeniable authority, even in her weakened state. Kai hesitated for a moment. "I'm Kai. I'm from Earth," he said, not sure whether she would understand what that meant. But the woman didn't seem confused. Instead, she simply nodded. "You're a human," she said, her voice more to herself than to him. "I didn't expect to find one of your kind here." Kai wasn't sure how to respond. She was clearly an alien, but she didn't seem hostile. Her words held a hint of curiosity, but there was something else too. An air of power, as though she was someone important. "Your wing is damaged," Kai said carefully, unsure of how much to reveal. He didn't know what her people were capable of, but he knew that helping her was his best shot at survival. The woman's eyes narrowed. "It is." "And you can fix it?" she asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "I can try," Kai replied. "I've fixed machines, ships, anything that's broken. I'll need time, but I'll try." Her gaze softened for a moment, and then she slowly nodded. "Very well. I will trust you." Kai was taken aback by her calm acceptance, but he didn't waste time questioning it. He immediately got to work. There was no medical kit on hand, no advanced tools to help him, but his knowledge of technology and mechanics gave him an edge. As he worked, the woman remained silent, watching him with those piercing eyes. Her wings were unlike anything he had ever seen before. The materials were too soft, too delicate to be mere metal or anything he was familiar with. He had to be gentle, careful not to do more harm than good. After hours of work, Kai was exhausted, but he had managed to stabilize the wing. It was far from perfect, but it was no longer broken. It would take time to fully repair it, but the woman's life was no longer in immediate danger. When he stepped back, wiping the sweat from his forehead, the woman slowly stood up. She winced as she moved, but there was a glimmer of gratitude in her eyes. "You've done more than I expected," she said quietly. Most would have given up. Kai shrugged, wiping his hands on his pants. I don't give up. I fix things. That's what I do. For the first time, the woman smiled. It was a small smile, but it was enough to make Kai feel like he had done something worthwhile. Thank you, Kai, she said, her voice steady now. I am Talia, daughter of the Emperor, of the Draxian Empire. Kai's eyes widened in surprise. He had heard rumors of the Draxian Empire, but he had never expected to meet someone from it, especially not someone with such an obvious royal presence. Your royalty? He asked, still trying to process what she had said. Talia nodded. Yes, I am. And now you are the one who has saved me. I owe you my life. Kai shook his head, still in disbelief. I didn't save your life. I just fixed your wing. You're strong, you'll make it. Talia's expression became serious. You don't understand, Kai. You've done more than you know. You've given me a chance to return to my people, to reclaim what's been lost. And for that, you have my gratitude. Kai didn't fully understand, but one thing was clear. He had just crossed paths with someone important. And the adventure he thought was over was only just beginning. As the days passed, Kai and Talia found themselves traveling together, away from the forest and deeper into the unknown land. The journey was slow, and Talia was still recovering from her injuries, though her wing was slowly healing thanks to Kai's work. Kai had built a makeshift shelter for them, using his knowledge of technology to craft tools and shelters that could withstand the harsh elements of the planet. Talia, despite her regal background, was surprisingly resourceful and eager to learn. You humans are quite clever, Talia said one evening, as they sat by a small fire, watching the stars above. I never thought much of your kind before. My father often spoke of you as insignificant, not worthy of notice. But you're different. Kai glanced at her, surprised by her words. I didn't know your father thought like that. I thought the Draxian Empire was, well, powerful. Talia smiled faintly, but there was sadness in her eyes. It was once. My father was a great ruler, but the Empire has fallen. The rebels, they have torn our worlds apart. The people no longer believe in him. They no longer fear him. And worse, they no longer respect him. Kai shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't realized how deep the problems of her people ran. So you're a princess, but your empire is in chaos? Talia nodded, looking away. Yes, the Draxian Empire was once the strongest in the galaxy, but my father became consumed with power. He became cruel, and now the people have turned against him. I left the palace years ago, trying to find a way to save my people, but it seems the world is beyond saving now. Kai didn't know what to say. He had always thought of royalty as distant figures, untouchable and powerful. But now, sitting by the fire with Talia, he realized she was no different than him. She was just a person, struggling with the same problems as anyone else. What happened to your wing? He asked, changing the subject to something lighter. Talia's eyes softened as she glanced at her wing. It was during an attack. The rebels found me, and I barely escaped with my life. My wing was damaged in the battle. It is a symbol of my power, and yet it has been broken, just as my empire has been broken. Without it, I am nothing. Kai frowned. He had seen the way she carried herself, her dignity, even in the face of danger. It didn't make sense that she would believe she was nothing. She had a fire inside her, a will to survive. And that was something no amount of power could take away. You're not nothing, Kai said quietly. You might think your wing is broken, but you're still here, and you still have a chance to change things. You're stronger than you know. Talia looked at him, her eyes searching his face, as if she was trying to understand what he meant. She opened her mouth to say something, but then paused. The silence stretched between them for a moment before she spoke again, her voice softer than before. Maybe you're right. Maybe I have a chance. But I can't do it alone. I need people to follow me, to believe in me. And for that, I need to fix more than just my wing. I need to restore my father's empire, or it will fall to ruin completely. Kai nodded. Well, if you need help, I'm with you. I'm not some great leader, but I know how to fix things. I'll help however I can. Talia studied him for a long time, as if considering his words. Finally, she nodded. Thank you, Kai. I believe you mean it. You've already done more for me than anyone else ever has. I won't forget it. Kai smiled, though there was a part of him that still didn't fully understand the weight of her words. She was talking about saving an empire while he was just a mechanic trying to fix a broken wing. But there was something about Talia, her courage, her strength, that made him want to help, to be a part of something bigger than himself. As the fire flickered and the night deepened, Kai and Talia fell into a comfortable silence. The air was cool, but the warmth of the fire between them seemed to create a sense of peace. Kai knew they still had a long journey ahead, and the path would not be easy. There were dangers lurking, both in the wilderness and in the political chaos of Talia's world. But for the first time since he had crash-landed on this strange planet, he felt like he was where he was meant to be. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't alone. Talia, for all her royal blood, was just as human as he was in her need for survival and hope. And as they sat by the fire that night, Kai made a silent vow to do everything he could to help her restore her empire and herself. As the days turned into weeks, Kai and Talia continued their journey, heading toward the capital of the Draxian Empire. Talia's wing, though still fragile, was healing, and with each passing day, she seemed to regain more of her strength. Kai's skills were proving invaluable, not only in fixing her wing, but in crafting tools and devices that helped them survive in the harsh terrain. Talia was beginning to trust him more, and in return, Kai had come to respect her not only for her royal blood, but for the person she was, a woman determined to restore her empire, no matter the cost. One evening, as they sat near a quiet stream, Talia turned to Kai with a look of determination in her eyes. "We are getting close," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. "But I'm not sure if I'm ready. I've been away from the Empire for so long, and the people have changed. The rebels are everywhere, and my father, he's no longer the ruler he once was." Kai didn't reply at first. He could see the weight of her words, the burden she carried. Talia was more than just a princess. She was a symbol of hope for her people. And yet, she seemed uncertain whether she could live up to that expectation. "I've seen how you lead," Kai said finally, his voice steady. "You're ready. You just don't realize it yet. Your people will follow you. They'll see the strength you have." Talia looked at him, her eyes filled with doubt. "It's not that simple. I can't just walk in and take over. The Empire is fractured, and the people are afraid. Fear has a way of controlling them." Kai nodded. "Fear is powerful, but so is hope. And you've already given them that. Look at everything you've been through. You're still here, still fighting. That counts for something." She sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "Maybe, but there's still so much to fix. My father, he's lost his way. He doesn't rule with the same wisdom he once did. I don't even know if he'll recognize me when I return." There was a moment of silence between them as Talia gazed out across the stream. Kai, too, was deep in thought. He had never imagined that a simple mechanic like himself would find himself in the middle of an intergalactic struggle. But as he looked at Talia, he knew she was right about one thing. Things weren't going to be easy. The challenges ahead were immense. "I can help," Kai said quietly, breaking the silence. "I don't know much about politics or wars, but I know how to build things, fix things. I can help you get your people back on their feet, even if it's just one step at a time. Talia turned to him, her expression softening. And you'll stay by my side? Even when things get worse? I don't run from problems, Kai replied with a small grin. Besides, I owe you more than just fixing your wing. You saved me, too. Talia smiled at that, though it was faint. I didn't save you. We saved each other. Kai chuckled. Maybe, but still, you've got a long way to go, and I'm not about to let you do it alone. The conversation quieted, and for a moment they both sat together, listening to the sounds of the flowing water. The world around them seemed so peaceful compared to the chaos they were about to face. But Kai knew it wouldn't last. Talia was a princess, and no matter how hard she tried to deny it, the weight of her position would soon catch up with her. As they neared the capital, the atmosphere grew tense. The air felt heavier, and the once glorious city seemed to be in a state of decay. Talia had described it as a place of power and beauty, but now, as they approached the gates, it seemed almost forgotten. The tall towers that once gleamed with pride were now covered in grime and soot. The streets that had once been filled with the voices of the people were silent, save for the occasional shout of a rebel or the clank of heavy armor. They stopped just outside the city, hidden in the shadows of the broken landscape. Talia looked out toward the gates, her face unreadable. She was silent for a long time before she spoke again. This is it, she said quietly. We've reached the heart of the Empire. There's no turning back now. Kai studied her carefully. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also the resolve. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she had dreamed of for so long. But now that it was here, it was clear to him that Talia was unsure. She was about to step into a world that had changed, a world where nothing was certain. Are you ready? Kai asked, his voice calm but firm. Talia took a deep breath, her wings folding slightly behind her, as if bracing herself for what was to come. I have no choice. The people need me. The Empire needs me. I can't let it fall any further. Kai nodded, understanding her resolve. He knew there was no turning back now. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Then let's go, he said. We're in this until the end. With that, they made their way toward the city gates, the sounds of distant shouts growing louder as they approached. Talia's heart raced, but she held her head high. She might not know what the future held, but she was ready to fight for it. And as Kai followed her, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would stand by her side, fixing the broken pieces of her empire, one step at a time. Talia and Kai made their way deeper into the capital city. The streets were quiet, too quiet for a place that was once filled with life and energy. The grand buildings, once shining with pride, now stood in ruins, crumbling under the weight of neglect and rebellion. The air was thick with tension. Every step they took seemed to echo in the silence, and every corner they turned felt like a reminder of how much the Empire had fallen. Talia's heart pounded in her chest as they approached the Grand Palace, a massive structure that had once symbolized the power of the Draxian Empire. Now it looked more like a fortress under siege. Guards stood at attention, their eyes sharp and wary, but none of them recognized Talia as she moved through the crowd, hidden beneath the cloak she had borrowed from an old ally. It was strange. She had once been adored by her people, but now she was nothing more than a shadow of what she had been. They passed through the palace gates and into the courtyard. Talia couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow as she gazed at the place that had once been her home. The statues of ancient emperors that had once stood proudly were now covered in dust, their features worn away by time and neglect. The garden, once full of vibrant flowers, was now overgrown with weeds. This place, Kai began, his voice soft as if unsure what to say. It doesn't look anything like the empire you described. Talia's expression darkened. It isn't. The empire has crumbled, and my father, he has lost everything. I don't know if I can save it, but I have to try. As they entered the grand hall, they were met by a familiar face. Zan, a former ally of Talia's, who had once served as her father's advisor, but now he was a shadow of the man Talia remembered. His once sharp eyes were now clouded with doubt, and his posture was stiff, as though he no longer believed in the cause he had once fought for. "Princess," Zan said, bowing his head slightly. His voice was cautious, as though unsure of who Talia had become in her absence. I didn't expect you to return." Talia stood tall, her eyes unwavering as she met his gaze. "I've come to reclaim what's mine, Zan. The Empire needs me." Zan's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "The Empire is broken, Talia. Your father is no longer the man he once was. The people have turned against him, and the rebels, they control most of the outer territories." Talia clenched her fists, her heart racing with frustration. She had known it wouldn't be easy, but hearing it from someone she once trusted made it all the more real. "I don't care what the people think of my father. I care about the future of this empire. If I have to fight for it, then I will." Kai, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. His voice was steady, though there was a hint of caution in his words. "I've seen how you fight, Talia. I've seen your strength. But you can't do this alone. You'll need more than just determination to take back what's yours. You need the support of the people, and you need a plan." Talia turned to Kai, her eyes softening. "I know. I've always known I couldn't do this alone. But I don't know where to start." Zan spoke again, his voice quiet but filled with regret. "You must understand, Princess, that the situation is worse than you realize. The Empire's resources are dwindling. The rebels have the support of the outer colonies, and the people are afraid. Fear has taken hold, and it will be difficult to undo." Talia's mind raced. She had always known her father's empire wasn't perfect, but to hear that it had fallen so far made her question everything. She had once believed she could restore it, that she could bring back the glory that had been lost. But now, standing in the ruins of the palace, she began to wonder if it was even possible. "We can't let fear rule," Kai said, his voice firm. "Fear is temporary, but hope is what lasts. You have the strength to bring that hope back. You just need to believe in it." Talia met his gaze, a flicker of determination returning to her eyes. Kai was right. She couldn't let fear take over. She had to find a way to unite the people, to show them that there was still hope for the Empire. "Thank you," Talia said quietly, her voice filled with gratitude. "You've given me something I've been missing. Hope." Zan, who had been watching the exchange in silence, stepped forward. "There is one way, Talia. One way to gain the support of the people. But it won't be easy." Talia's eyes narrowed, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Zan glanced around, as though ensuring no one was listening, before lowering his voice. "The rebels have a leader, a man named Kor, who is stirring up trouble in the outer territories. He has the loyalty of many of the colonies. If you can defeat him, you can weaken the rebels' cause and gain the support of those who are still loyal to your father." Talia's mind raced. This was it. This was her chance to take back what was rightfully hers. But the cost would be high. Kor was no ordinary rebel leader. He was ruthless, and his forces were strong. "I'll do it," Talia said, her voice filled with resolve. "I'll face Kor, and I'll do whatever it takes to bring peace back to my empire." Kai stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll do it together. You're not alone in this." As Talia looked at Kai, she realized how much she had come to rely on him. He had been the one constant in the midst of her chaos, the one person who believed in her when everything else seemed lost. The path ahead would not be easy, but with Kai by her side and the hope of her people in her heart, Talia was ready to face whatever came next. The journey to the outer territories was difficult, but Talia and Kai pressed on. As they traveled further from the capital, the landscape grew harsher, and the signs of rebellion became more apparent. The once great roads were now cracked and broken, with debris scattered across the path. The villages they passed through were empty, the windows boarded up, and the streets silent. Fear had taken root in the hearts of the people, and the rebels' presence loomed over them like a shadow. Talia could feel the weight of the task ahead. She had always known this would be a difficult journey, but now that she was so close to facing Kor, the leader of the rebels, the reality of it all settled in. The man was a symbol of everything that had gone wrong with her empire. His actions had divided the people, torn apart families, and crushed the hope that the Draxian Empire once held. To defeat him meant more than just regaining control. It meant restoring the faith of her people, showing them that the empire was not beyond saving. As they neared the rebel stronghold, Talia could feel the tension building. Her heart raced with anticipation, but also with fear. She had never faced an enemy like Kor before. The rebels had taken control of the outer colonies, and they had no intention of surrendering. She had to be smart, calculated, and strong, qualities that she had learned to rely on over the years, but never more than now. "We're close," Kai said, his voice steady, though there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Talia nodded, though her throat felt tight. "I have no choice. The Empire needs me, and the people need hope." They moved through the dense forest, staying hidden from the rebel scouts who patrolled the area. It wasn't long before they reached a clearing where they could see the rebel camp in the distance. The camp was large, with tents scattered across the open ground, guarded by armed soldiers. In the center of it all was Kor, the man who had brought the Empire to its knees. Talia knew he was ruthless. He had no loyalty, no honor, and no care for the suffering of others. He only cared about power. Talia felt a surge of anger at the thought of him. He was the one who had caused so much pain, who had made her people fear for their future. But she couldn't let that anger control her. She had to think clearly, to make the right decisions. Kai stepped forward, his eyes scanning the camp. "There's too many of them for a direct assault. We'll need to be careful." Talia glanced at him, her mind racing. "I know. We'll need to gather intelligence first. I need to know where Kor is, what his movements are, and who we can trust. The last thing I want is to walk into a trap." They spent the next few days in the surrounding woods, watching the rebel camp from a distance. Talia sent out small teams to gather information, and Kai worked on crafting devices to help them communicate silently and stay hidden. Every night, they would regroup and share their findings, carefully planning their next move. As the days passed, Talia felt the weight of her decision growing heavier. She knew the risks. Kor was not a man who would hesitate to kill if it meant securing his power. But she also knew that she had no choice. She had to face him, to show her people that the Empire could rise again. If she failed, all hope would be lost. The final night before their attack, Talia sat alone in their camp, her mind troubled. She couldn't shake the doubt that had been creeping into her thoughts. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if she failed, and the Empire fell? Apart even further? She had spent so many years running, so many years hiding from the truth of what had happened to her people. But now, there was no more running. There was only the fight, and the future of her world rested on her shoulders. Kai appeared from the shadows, his footsteps soft on the ground. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice gentle. "You've been thinking too much." Talia smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just worried about what comes next. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not enough to save them?" Kai knelt beside her, his expression serious. "You've already done more. than most could ever hope to. You're stronger than you think. You have something Core doesn't, heart. You care about the people, and that's what will make you different. Talia looked at him, her eyes searching his face. Do you really believe that? Kai nodded. I do. You've already brought hope to me. You've already given me a reason to keep going. You'll do the same for your people. Talia's heart swelled with gratitude. She had never thought of herself as a symbol of hope, but with Kai by her side, she realized that perhaps she could be. She wasn't alone in this fight, and that made all the difference. The next morning, they began their assault on the rebel camp. It was swift, well-coordinated, and precise. The rebel soldiers were caught off guard, and Talia's forces, small but determined, began to take control. But the real challenge lay ahead. Core. He was no ordinary leader, and Talia knew that he would stop at nothing to retain his power. As they entered the heart of the camp, Talia could see Core standing at the center, surrounded by his loyal followers. He was tall, with dark eyes that seemed to pierce through the air. His face was cold, hard, like stone. He looked at Talia, a sneer curling on his lips. So, the princess returns, Core said, his voice low and mocking. I wondered when you'd show your face. Do you really think you can take back what's mine? Talia stood tall, her voice unwavering. I'm not here to take anything from you, Core. I'm here to take back what's mine and restore my empire. You've caused enough suffering. It's time for you to pay for your actions. Core laughed, the sound echoing through the camp. You think you can defeat me? You're nothing but a broken princess, trying to reclaim what she never deserved. Talia's eyes narrowed, her heart steady. I may be broken, but I'm still standing, and I will not let you destroy what's left of my people. With that, the battle began in earnest. Talia knew this would be the fight of her life, but she was ready. She had no choice but to win. Her people were depending on her. The battle between Talia's forces and the rebels raged on. The camp was chaos, filled with the sounds of clashing weapons and shouts of soldiers. Talia moved through the battlefield with purpose, her eyes fixed on the center where Core stood, still commanding his troops with ruthless precision. Her heart pounded, but her mind was focused. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She had come too far to turn back now. Every step she took brought her closer to reclaiming her empire, to restoring what had been lost. Core was ruthless, but she had something he didn't, a sense of duty to her people. It was that sense of duty that had carried her this far, and it was that same strength that would carry her through to the end. Kai fought by her side, his calm presence a steadying force as they pressed forward. He had become more than just an ally. He had become a true friend. His skills and knowledge had been invaluable, but it was his belief in her that had kept her going when she felt like giving up. She knew she couldn't have made it this far without him. As they reached the center of the camp, Talia spotted Core. He was standing tall, his dark eyes narrowed in defiance as he surveyed the battlefield. His men were falling around him, but he showed no sign of fear. He was a man who would never surrender, no matter the cost. Talia's eyes met his, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. There was no more noise, no more chaos, just the two of them, locked in a silent battle of wills. Core's lips curled into a sneer as he stepped forward, his weapon drawn. You think you can defeat me? Core's voice was cold, laced with bitterness. You are nothing, princess. The empire is mine, and it always will be. You're weak, just like your father. Talia didn't flinch. She stood tall, her heart steady as she met his gaze. The empire belongs to its people, not to one man. You've taken everything from them, but you won't take their hope. Core laughed darkly, the sound echoing through the bay. Teetlefield. Hope? What do you know of hope? You're nothing but a broken princess, trying to reclaim what was never yours. Talia's grip tightened on her weapon, her resolve strengthening. I may be broken, but I am not defeated. And I will not let you destroy what's left of my empire. Without another word, the battle resumed. Talia and Kor clashed in the center of the camp, their weapons ringing out as they fought with everything they had. It was a brutal fight, each blow landing with force, but Talia was determined. She couldn't let him win. She couldn't let him destroy her people any more than he already had. As the fight continued, Talia could feel the weight of the moment settling in. This was it, the final battle. Her people's future depended on her, and she couldn't afford to fail. She knew she had to defeat Kor, not just for herself, but for everyone who had suffered because of him. Kai, fighting alongside her forces, had done his part. He had helped her get this far, and now it was up to Talia to finish what she had started. The rebels were in disarray, their morale broken by the fall of their leader, but Kor was relentless. He wouldn't give up without a fight. Talia's mind raced as she parried his strikes and countered with her own. She had to end this. The battle couldn't continue forever. Her empire's future couldn't wait any longer. Finally, with one swift movement, Talia disarmed Kor, knocking his weapon from his grasp. He stumbled back, shock flashing across his face as he realized he was beaten. Talia stood over him, her chest heaving with exertion, but her resolve was unwavering. "This ends now," she said, her voice firm and unyielding. Kor glared up at her, his pride shattered. He knew he had lost. "You may have won today, princess, but the people will never follow you. You'll never have the power you think you deserve." Talia shook her head. "Power isn't about control or fear. It's about hope, about trust. And the people will follow me, because I will fight for them. I'll restore the empire not with violence, but with strength and heart." She turned away from Kor, signaling to her forces to take him into custody. Her mission was complete. The rebels had been defeated, and the Draxian Empire was no longer under the control of a tyrant. It was time to rebuild. As the battle came to an end, Talia stood in the center of the rebel camp, her heart heavy but filled with a sense of peace. She had done it. She had reclaimed her empire and restored hope to her people. Kai stepped up beside her, a proud smile on his face. "You did it, Talia! You brought them back!" Talia nodded, looking out over the camp where the rebels had once stood. "We did it! All of us!" With Kor captured and the rebels scattered, Talia's forces began to regroup. The road ahead would be difficult, but she knew it was a path she could walk. The empire was hers to lead, and with the support of her people, she would bring about the change they so desperately needed. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Talia felt a sense of hope fill her heart. She had fought for her people, and now it was time to rebuild, to restore the empire to what it had once been, and more. And through it all, she knew she would never be alone. She had Kai by her side, and together, they would build a new future. For the Draxian Empire, one where hope would always lead the way. The days after the battle were filled with challenges. Talia and her forces began the long process of rebuilding the empire, but it wasn't easy. There were still many who feared the future, still many who didn't believe in her ability to lead. The damage caused by the rebellion ran deep, and it would take time to heal. But Talia was determined. She had fought for her people, and now it was her job to give them a future worth believing in. The first step was restoring order in the capital. The palace had been abandoned for years, and it was now in disrepair. Talia knew that rebuilding the empire started with her own home, her own heart. With Kai's help, they worked tirelessly to repair the broken palace, not just as a place to rule, but as a symbol of the empire's revival. As Talia walked through the halls of the palace, She could feel the weight of history on her shoulders. Her father's reign had been filled with glory, but it had also been filled with mistakes. His power had corrupted him, and his arrogance had cost the empire everything. Talia was determined not to make the same mistakes. She would lead with compassion, with the understanding that true power came from the people, not from a throne. Kai was by her side every step of the way, offering his support and his skills. He had proven to be more than just a mechanic. He was a true ally, someone she could trust without question. He worked on the technology that would help bring the empire back to life, creating devices that could help rebuild the cities, improve communication, and provide for the people. His ingenuity was unmatched, and Talia found herself relying on him more than she had ever expected. One evening, after a long day of work, Talia sat alone in the palace courtyard, looking up at the stars. She had always loved the night sky. It reminded her that no matter how dark things seemed, there was always light to guide her. But tonight, she wasn't sure if that light was enough. There was so much to do, and the road ahead was still uncertain. The rebels had been defeated, but there were still pockets of resistance. The people were still wary, still unsure of what the future held. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Kai approaching. He smiled at her, a familiar, comforting presence. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders," he said softly, sitting down beside her. Talia chuckled, though it was a hollow sound. "It feels like I am. There's so much that needs to be fixed, so much I have to do." Kai nodded. "I know. But you've already done so much. You've fought for your people, you've fought for your empire. That's more than most could ever say." Talia sighed, her gaze returning to the stars. "I just want to make sure I do it right. I don't want to be like my father. I don't want to be a ruler who only cares about power. I want to be someone the people can trust, someone who leads with kindness and strength." Kai's expression softened. "You're already that person, Talia. You're not your father. You've proven that, and the people will see that." Talia turned to look at him, her eyes meeting his. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," he replied, his voice filled with certainty. "You've already inspired me, Talia. You've shown me what real strength looks like, and I believe that the people will follow you because they believe in you." Talia smiled, though it was a small smile. "Thank you, Kai. I don't know what I would have done without you." Kai shrugged. "You'd have figured it out. You always do." They sat together in silence for a while, the sound of the wind, rustling through the trees, the only noise around them. Talia felt a sense of peace wash over her. It was true that the road ahead was difficult, but she wasn't alone. She had people she could trust, people who believed in her, and that made all the difference. The next few weeks were filled with efforts to rebuild. Talia worked with the leaders of the cities and villages to restore the broken infrastructure. Kai helped design new technology to improve the lives of the people, and he worked with the engineers and craftsmen to bring his inventions to life. Slowly, the empire began to heal. The people began to see that there was hope, that there was a future they could look forward to. But even as the empire began to recover, Talia knew that there were still challenges ahead. There would always be those who opposed her, those who didn't believe in her vision for the future. But she had learned something important in the past months. She couldn't control what others thought. She could only control what she did. And she would continue to fight for the empire, for the people who needed her. One day, as Talia walked through the newly rebuilt palace gardens, she was joined by Kai. He smiled at her as they walked side by side, the sound of birds chirping in the distance. "You know," Kai said, "it's starting to feel like things are finally changing around here." Talia smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "It's not perfect, but we're getting there, one step at a time." Kai looked at her, a look of admiration in his eyes. You've come a long way, Talia, and I'm proud to have been a part of it. Talia stopped walking and turned to face him, her expression serious. I couldn't have done it without you, Kai. You were the one who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Kai smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. You're stronger than you know, and now the Empire knows that too. Talia nodded, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and hope. The Empire was on the road to recovery, and though there would be obstacles along the way, she was no longer afraid. She had a purpose, a vision for the future, and with Kai by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together they had rebuilt the Empire, and together they would continue to build a future that was brighter than anything they had ever known.